Hello students, my name is Parth Kumar Singh and I am an alumnus of IIT Jodhpur. Today we are going to discuss a very interesting question that was asked in NEST 2024. In this question, we have been given an octahedral complex, a chromium complex, and we have to tell how many number of geometrical isomers are possible for this particular complex. So this type of a question can seem to be very confusing and at a time can be very lengthy to solve, but if you know the right way to solve this type of question that we will see very soon, you can basically solve this question in 2-3 minutes, right? So basically what we will do, since we know that clearly it is a octahedral complex, so what we will do that we will draw a reference structure. For example, I am placing this NH3 cis to each other, means at 90 degree. This is my reference and rest I can place anywhere, right? So suppose this is the arrangement that I draw as a reference. Now for two structures to be geometrical isomers of each other, what is the condition? The basic condition is that the reference or the relative angle, basically the relative angle between any two ligands and the central metal atom in the two given structures should be different, right? If all the relative angles are same, then these two probable structure that you are comparing is same, right? So now we have to think of those structures. So what can we do? An easy way is that we know that NH3 are 90 to each other. So there could be one possible structure when NH3 are 90 degree to each other, and another possible structure could be when NH3 are at 180 degree to each other. So let's just draw that one too clearly. So these two are the basic structure that we can have, rest we can place anywhere. Now in this particular structure, when NH3 are at 90 degree, what other possibilities we could have without changing this particular skeleton? One is this one, which is in basically in here, that H2O are at 90 degree and Cl are also at 90 degree. But one possibility could be when H2O in this H2O are at 180 degree and Cl are also at 180 degree. So this could be another possible structure that we can draw, like NH3 Cl and basically H2O. So basically this can't happen if, see, either you can place two H2O at 90 degree, then eventually your 2Cl will be at basically if you place two chlorine atoms at 180 degree, then consequently your 2H2O will be at 90 degree, and if you place H2O there, then chlorine will be at 90 degree. So either of this is true, right? H2 180, so kya hoga? Chlorine will be at 90 degree, and if you place chlorine at 180 degree, what will happen? H2O will be at 180 degree, right? So sorry, 90 degree, right? So now this is another structure that is possible. Now what else can happen? Like I told you, here chlorine 180, you can place water or OH2 at 180, leaving these at 90. So first, second, third, fourth. Now in this particular arrangement, one more structure is possible without disturbing this NH3 at 180, because this is what we have taken as a reference. H2OCl are at 180. What other possibility lies there is H2O and Cl, both are at 180, right? So basically the other structure possible here is this one. And instead of these, basically no other possibility you can really think of. So basically total number of isomers that can possibly be drawn for this particular complex is basically 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. So basically the correct answer is option number 2, 5. So this type of question is solved quite patiently. keeping out in mind all the possibilities and taking one of it as a reference, right? So every time you face this type of question, you have to do the same thing, that you have to place two ligands at 90 degree, create it as a reference, and that same ligand at 180 create as another reference. Then try to put other ligands without disturbing the reference geometry of the concerned two ligands, right? So this is the right way to solve these type of questions. In this question, the important thing is that they have asked about an intramolecular reaction which you are not clearly used to, because in NCERT there is not much about this particular reaction. So basically what they are saying, an intramolecular aldol reaction of P in presence of dilute NaOH yields a mixture of aldol reaction products. So basically this is your substrate on which you have to apply the concept of aldol reaction. Now we know that substantially this compound can give a variety of aldol products because of the presence of variety of alpha hydrogens available here, right? So now what they are saying, that one of the products that can be formed through the aldol reaction via this substrate is which one basically. So basically there are four set of compounds and either one of them is basically feasible while you try to make it from the aldol reaction of this particular compound. So now since we know that this particular compound has so many alpha hydrogens, like this one, like one from this carbon, like one from this carbon, right? So many alpha hydrogens and correspondingly two carbonyls. So there is a variety of attack that are possible and a variety of cyclic structures that are eventually possible through this type of aldol reaction basically. Now we have to guess only one. So it becomes really difficult to go for each and every type of products given, analyze them whether they are forming or not. The right approach in this type of question is basically you follow your basic approach, what you know, right? And then see if it is forming or not. You have to select any one of it because it is a MCQ, so you have to use your mind also. Otherwise this question will be a very hectic question to solve. So in this question what we will do, see, now analyze these, right? So let's suppose that what you have so far understood about aldol reaction is that the ketones are relatively less electrophilic as compared to aldehydes. Because of the presence of one extra CH3, there is a substantial plus I that decreases the electrophilicity of the carbonyls CO. So the first choice is that we attack the hydrogen from this particular ketone onto the carbonyl of this CHO, because this CHO tend to be more electrophilic. So let's give it a chance to be electrophilic here. So what we will assume, that let's say this OH minus comes and abstracts proton from here and forms an enolate like this. Now we know, let me just open this up. Now we know that this will be in a resonance of this particular enol form, right? We know that. And then obviously this is basically O minus, right? So these two actually plays with each other, right? So the major reactivity is through this one. So what will happen actually, this will come here back and this anion will now attack on the electrophilic carbon of this CO group. So making a, now you can analyze that if this carbon is attached to this one, how many number of rings we have, means how many membered ring we are forming actually. So just count it. We are forming a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 5 membered ring. So what we will draw a basic skeleton of a 6 membered ring. This is basically nothing to do with the main substrate. Keep it as it is and draw a 5 membered ring now and number it from here, right? 1, this carbon attached from the benzene ring was first. Second is basically this one, third, fourth and fifth. Now see, on the very fifth carbon you will have an O minus that will eventually turn into an OH group that we know, right? Because the basic product that we get in aldol before the elimination part is basically an alcohol. So here we will get an OH and this COCH3 group that was lying on the or attached on the first carbon will be placed like this. So luckily, following the simple rule of the reactivity pattern between aldehydes and ketones, we came across the correct answer somehow, that this will form. You are sure shot that this compound can form through this, and this is what is given in one of the options, that is this one, where it is this one. See, same, right? 6-membered ring, 6-membered ring, then on the then attached a fused 5-membered ring, and then on the first carbon you have a COCH3, and on the next carbon you have a OH group. So basically this is what you will get after doing aldol of this particular substrate. This is one of those products that they were asking. So likewise, if this kind of a question comes again in the exam, you may have so many of the confusions, like which alpha hydrogen we need to be abstract first, right, and where to attack. So many possibilities, like this wala C minus can also attack here, right, and this C minus can also attack there. So many possibilities, I know, but you will follow the simple fundamentals step by step. For example, we just noticed here that out of ketone and aldehyde, we know that aldehyde have substantial electrophilicity. So we will try to give the chance of being electrophilic to aldehyde first, and out of this and this proton, we subtracted or basically abstracted the proton from this particular carbon with a reason. The reason is that we know that if we abstracted carbon hydrogen from this carbon, it will make a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7-membered ring. Otherwise, if we abstracted, just like we did, abstracted proton from this carbon, we ended up in a 5-membered ring, and we know as per the steric hindrance rule, we know that the stability of a 5-membered ring is relatively more than as compared to the stability of a 7-membered ring. So that is why we have chosen this proton over this proton. However, both has the possibility. So this is how, following the right fundamentals, we ended up to the right product. In this question, they have given a very dramatic language that you might get confused with whether this question belongs to biology or chemistry, right? So let's just read it out. Biological standard potential E star is defined as the potential measured at pH 7, that you need to highlight because pH 7 is very important parameter that they have given here, right? So pH 7. The species nicotinamide adenine diadenine, what is that? Nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide, right? See, I am not a biology fan, so basically this happens. So nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide NADH and its oxidized form NAD plus play an important role in respiratory process. Maybe, right? I seriously don't know. Neither do I have any use of it. Given the standard potential of E naught, basically E naught minus 0.099 volts, here, as soon as you reach this point, you will come to realize that this question actually belongs to electrochemistry, right? For the reaction NAD plus, the reaction is given NAD plus aqueous, H plus aqueous with 2 electrons combines to form NADH. So basically it is some kind of a biological conversion that is basically converting NAD plus to NADH, and they are saying that this process is important for respiration, right? Maybe, right? So now what they are saying, that this, since this is a redox process, we can see that not this one, this is just a plus oxidation is getting converted to a basically neutral species. So we are reducing the oxidation state, so basically it is a reduction. So a reduction process is given, and correspondingly they are asking E star for the conversion of NAD plus to NADH in an aqueous solution of 1 molar NAD plus, means the concentration is 1 molar at 25 degrees centigrade, means that is your room temperature. Since we know that most of the biological reactions are actually feasible or favorable at room temperature, right? Now, what they are asking is E star. E star is standard potential, right, for the cell, for the half cell. Now we know that Nernst equation can be applied for individually half cells also. So what is the Nernst equation typically written as? E cell is equals to E naught cell minus 0.0591 upon n. We use this 0.0591 upon n when the temperature is specifically room temperature. Otherwise, there is a whole new formula RT upon NF that you may know, right? So, since the temperature is room temperature 25 degrees centigrade, we can simply use this formula 0.0591 upon n log oxidized form concentration upon reduced form concentration, means as per the reaction, right? Or you can say the right and the left one, right? So now converting or applying this particular equation to the half cell reaction mentioned above, we will have this E cell is actually E star here, biological cell potential. E naught is given to you. See, E naught for NAD plus to NADH is given, right? For the NAD plus to NADH is given to you minus 0.099 volt. Now the main thing is, what is the value of n here? N, as you can see, there are 2 electrons involved, so n will be 2, 0.0591 upon 2. Log, in this reaction, basically if you write it as oxidized upon reduced, so basically this oxidized upon reduced is used when you have a complete cell reaction. But when you do not have a complete cell reaction, when you apply it on a half cell reaction instead, you will use the concentration terms on the right divided by concentration terms on the left, right? So basically on the right you have NADH aqueous, and on the left you have 2 species in aqueous format, that is NAD plus and NH plus, right? Now we know that since the concentration of NAD plus is 1 molar, obviously the concentration of NADH is also going to be 1 molar, because this entire species conversion has been shown. Obviously all the amount of NAD plus is going to be converted into NADH. That's how your complete respiration process will be finished. Those who have a substantial knowledge of biology can also relate and understand this in a better picture, right? But this is so obvious. So the concentration of both NADH and NAD plus will be 1, unity. So E star will be minus 0.099 volt minus what will be this 0.0295, something like that, log of 1 upon 1 into H plus concentration. Now we know that, let me just write it once again, 0.099 volt minus 0.0295. If I just flip this denominator to the numerator, we know log 1 upon x can also be written minus log x. So basically I will write instead it minus log H plus, and we know that minus log H plus is basically pH, right? And pH is given, that the process is basically proceeding at a 7 pH or a neutral pH. Obviously, because it is a biological process, right? It will support neutral medium preferably, right? Now 0.0295, and we know it will be log, this is your pH directly, right? This is your pH. So pH is 7. So just solving this will get you the answer somewhere around minus 0.305 volt, which can be round off to minus 0.31 volt. So basically the answer is this one. So this is how you have to patiently read the question first before skipping it. You have to try, you have to give 1 minute to understand it. You have to just utilize the information whatever you know so far, right? And that's how you will end up with the right answer in 2 or maximum 3 minutes in such kind of difficult question. So basically in this question, the compound X is given and it does not react with aqueous NaOH at 80 degrees centigrade. The reason is that, so basically there are 4 reasons and you have to select the correct one. Now if you closely look this compound, okay, so this is the center where probably they are asking to have the substitution of OH ions with this Cl ions, and because we know that aqueous NaOH is known to be the reagent that causes substitution, right, in halides. Now the thing is that they are saying that even at 80 degrees centigrade this reaction is not feasible. So the reason, the 2-methyl group offers a steric hindrance to the incoming nucleophile. So basically they are talking about these 2 methyl groups. Now second point, the CCl bond is strong and does not dissociate under the reaction condition. Okay. The plus I effect of methyl group destabilizes the carbocation. This one, okay. So the cyclic structure, the last one, the cyclic structure prevents the formation of carbocation. Okay. So now this statement is incorrect because plus I effect we know that stabilizes carbocation rather than destabilizing it. So this is an incorrect statement. The CCl bond is strong and does not dissociate under the reaction condition. There is nothing such that we cannot break this bond because of the strength of the bond, because we know that just a CCl bond, sigma bond, especially when it is not under any kind of delocalization or partial double bond character, it can be broken down easily because it is a highly polar bond. So this option is also not too valid. The two methyl groups offers a steric hindrance to the incoming nucleophile, which is practically not possible, that these two particular methyl groups can significantly hinder the incoming nucleophile, because the incoming nucleophile is coming to this carbocation from an entire different plane, and that too, if the carbocation forms here, the nucleophile OH minus have different possibilities of attacking to this particular center above and below. So even if this CH3 groups can offer a significant amount of hindrance when OH minus comes from above the plane, then it has other possibility to attack below the plane. So the reaction should proceed, but in a different way. But the reaction, since it is not proceeding, we can say that this is also not the correct reason. The left one is what is the correct reason, and actually this particular reason can be attributed to the fact that here we will apply Brett's rule, and according to Brett's rule, the carbocation or an alkene on the bridgehead carbon is not stable. So basically we can see that this is the bridgehead center, right? So any carbocation or an alkene that is located at bridgehead is not stable as per the Brett's rule, and that is why this carbocation cannot form here, and significantly OH ions cannot attack here and cause the substitution reaction. But just for your knowledge, I would like to inform you that recently a research has been made which actually disproves the Brett's rule and says that yes, now we can prepare carbocations like this under certain conditions. So just for your extra knowledge, Brett's rule is no more. But yeah, this question was actually solved just like this. This is what is tricky about this question, that you cannot explain that whether this question was asked in biology section or chemistry section, and this is what is best point about this particular question. Basically this question belongs to the chapter chemical kinetics, but interestingly this question was asked in the section of biology since it involves enzyme catalysis. And in this question what they have given is a energy level diagram or potential energy level diagram of a particular reaction comparison, right, with catalyst and without catalyst. So let's just understand the question. The graph depicts energy diagram, potential energy versus progress of the reaction, as we can see, right, of an uncatalyzed reaction. So black solid line is what representing the uncatalyzed reaction, and the enzyme catalyzed reaction, that is the red solid line, this is catalyzed by an enzyme. As we know that enzymes are basically those proteins which act as a catalyst in the biological reactions. So this is some biological reaction in a biochemical reaction, right? So basically two forms of this particular reactions have been given to you. One is basically with the catalyst, the other one is without the catalyst, and we very well know that catalyst is the one who can significantly alter the activation energy or basically reduce the activation energy and can increase the rate of reaction, right? And this is what is happening here, right? As you can see that the activation energy, that is the difference between the energy of the reactant and the energy of the transition state, is what known as activation energy, and we can see the significant amount has been reduced in the case of activation energy of a catalyzed reaction. Now based on this information, consider the following statements about the enzyme catalysis. L, M and NO represents. So now, just before we read it, we should understand ourselves that what are these points. As we know that L is the energy of reactant, O is the energy of the product, and just to add up to your knowledge, this reaction is exothermic in nature. How do I know? Because the energy difference of the final to the initial is negative, right? So this is so far an exothermic process. This is true, right? Now the point M and point N are the energies of the transition states, not the intermediate. This is what sometimes students get confused with, that what is the difference between a transition state and an intermediate. on the basis of the diagram of energy, potential energy and the reaction progress. So basically if a graph like this comes to you, then this secondary stabilized form other than the reactant and the product in this diagram is what represents the intermediate. But these humps in the diagram represents transition state. So basically this is a kind of a process which is a single step process, and that is why no intermediate formation has been so far taken place, and the only thing that matters here is the energy of the transition state, not the intermediate. So basically M and N are the intermediate energy levels of transition state energy levels for catalyzed and uncatalyzed reactions respectively. Okay, right? So now what they are saying, L, M and NO represents potential energy, yes, of the substrate transition state in the absence of enzyme, M in the absence of enzyme, yes, and transition state in the presence of enzyme, yes, and the product is O. So basically first statement is true. L, M and NO are respectively representing the energies of reactant, the energies of transition states of uncatalyzed and catalyzed, and the reaction, basically the energy of the product in the reaction. Now the second point is the rate of the catalyzed reaction increases exponentially to the tune of difference between M and N. So basically what they are saying, as you tune the reaction from an uncatalyzed format to the catalyzed format, the rate of reaction increases exponentially, and this is what is exactly going to happen when you follow the very well known Arrhenius equation that gives you an equation like this: K A E raised to the power minus Ea by RT, right? So K is equals to A into E raised to the power minus Ea by RT, where Ea is your activation energy. Now we know that this is a exponential relation, and any change in the activation energy will cause the significant alteration of rate constant in an exponential manner. Similarly, the rate of reaction will change in the similar way, right? So as we move from uncatalyzed to the catalyzed format for this particular reaction, we know that significant amount of Ea is getting reduced. This means that equivalently your rate constant will increase, since the relation between K and Ea is exponential, so the change will be an exponential increase, right? So this point is also true. Now the rate of catalyzed reaction is directly proportional to the energy difference between L and O. Now what they are saying, that the rate of catalyzed reaction is directly proportional to the energy difference between L and O. So basically L and O is this, the energy of a reactant and the product. And what they are saying is this is delta H, by the way. The energy difference between L and O is what known as enthalpy of the reaction, delta H, right? So what they are saying, that the rate of the reaction, basically catalyzed reaction, directly proportional to the delta H, which is not true, because catalysis does not involve or alter the energy of reactant and the product. It just significantly reduces the amount of activation energy that is required, or that you have been studying so far, that it finds an alternate path to complete the same reaction. So basically, since we know that delta H is a state function, not a path function, so basically catalyst does not changes the energy of reactant and product, since we can say that delta H is not a dependent factor, or basically the rate of reaction is not a dependent factor on the enthalpy, right? So this statement is incorrect. Now fourth one, the last one, L, M and NO represents potential energy of the substrate, a reaction intermediate, which is why this point is false here, because no intermediate formation is taking place in this single step process. Remember always a bonus knowledge, that whenever a potential energy diagram and the reaction coordinate diagram is just like this, it's a single step process, right? And when it is like this, it is a single step, it is a double or a multiple step process, and there the formation of intermediate is what is possible, right? Not here. So here only transition states are possible. So the correct statement among these four is only first and second. So this is how very beautifully they have combined biology with the chemistry, and they have asked this question in the section of biology. And if you have liked this type of question, if you want more questions like this, do tell us in the comment section. Thank you.